West Coast beats banging.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am Talia Tees and welcome to the table. If you're new here, please like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you always know when Talia's dropping that tea. So tonight we're going to get back into Black Mafia Family or BMF Season 1 Episode 2 titled Rumors, and let's get talkative. So we open up with Meech speeding in his Benz down the road, and I assume he's trying to get to his brother. But you hear him talking about how with the game, it's always going to come with risks. But nobody's really thinking about those risks when they're in the thick of it and everything's all good. But he did recall when him and his brother were little, everybody looked up to Magic Johnson, Billy Sims, Isaiah Thomas, you know, the Detroit stars, celebrities. But they looked up to people like the Chambers brothers, which was the brothers that New Jack City, that movie was based on their life. They also liked the Detroit local D-Boys, which was called YBI, Young Boys Incorporated, I believe. And, you know, pretty much everybody was patterning themselves after them because they had the power and respect. So Meech makes it to the hospital, and my boy got some type of a machine gun, a assault rifle, a Glock. I'm not good with the guns. I'm non-violent. But he come in with some kind of gun in his hand, and he is looking all over the place, screaming, "Where the hell is Terry?" You know, the nurses, the receptionists, they are scared to death because this man is just looking for his brother with this gun. So we see Detective Brian and one of his partners. They see him and they're like, okay, you need to put your gun down. And his partner actually draws his gun out on him. But, you know, Detective Brian, he was able to get him to calm down, and he even was able to take the gun from him. So he walks in the room, Meech, and he see Terry's in the hospital bed. And I mean, literally, he is a bloody mess. It looks awful. But he goes on to tell Meech to tell his mom and dad that he is so sorry and to go ahead and watch over Junior. And all of a sudden he flatlines. So we see all these people rushing in trying to save him. And it's just not a good look. So the 50th Street Boys make it to the hospital and they got a bunch of questions. You know, but Meech lets them know, you know, he don't really know what this is. And he don't know who did it. But they definitely need to lock down. They need to get more manpower on the streets, so go ahead and hire up some goons. But then his family walks in, his mom, his dad, and his sister. And mama just immediately just lays into Meech. It's because of you, ain't it? And so he's like, nah, mama, he was robbed. Don't lie to me. And she starts swinging violently. And I just hate to see the way they're doing Meech. But anywho, you know, mama just ain't buying it. And she tells him, if he dies, this is on you. I told you to stay away from him. So Meech, he sits back and he kind of reflects. And, you know, he says to himself, you know, I didn't realize how naive I was at that time. But looking back on it, you know, you realize you don't ever play the dope game. It always plays you. So out in the streets, we see Lamar. He approaches J-Mo and his crew as they, you know, chilling on the block. And he asks them, like, hey, is that job still open? And J-Mo like, nope. We good on the 12th Street over here. And honestly, we don't really hire for the Special Olympics because, you know, Lamar a little throwed off. He ain't playing with a full deck. But anyway, he's like, but you shot me down. So why the change of heart? So Lamar lets him know that, hey, you know, I'm retired. I'm out the game. But I would like for the new king to be somebody that's from E-Course. And I want to help you get that crown. You know, so J-Mo, he obliges. And he said, okay, I'll go ahead and give you a little small job. If you do well, we'll work you up. So then we switch over to, it looks like Kwame. So remember, Kwame was the little dude that was messing with Terry in the classroom or whatnot. And he's walking out with a friend, and then Meech comes walking up, and the friend sees Meech before Kwame does, and he gets the hell out of Dodge. And when I tell you, Meech just commences to beating that boy's ass. And, Kwame, he's like putting it on his mama and everything. He did not shoot him. He's crying. But, Meech eventually leaves him alone. But, it is kind of risky that he would do something like that just in broad daylight. So Terry, he's in the hospital still, and he wakes up, and, you got the family in the room. His baby mama's with him, and he's asking, where's Meech? And they's like, well, he been gone all night. And his daddy, he takes this opportunity to really start pressing Wendy out. So he asks her, is Terry involved with Meech's drug operation? And of course she lies. She ain't gonna give it up when she can already see that this is a very tense situation between them. But the family eventually agrees to just go ahead and head home. They've been there all night. They probably just need a change of clothes and just a little bit of a refresh. So later on, we see Lamar, and it looks like he's with one of J-Mo's friends. I think this is PM. And they walking and they talking, and PM asks him, like, bro, what you really trying to do? Because I know you ain't trying to be no corner boy while you trying to get on with J-Mo. So what is this really? So Lamar says, even if I wanted to fight, I don't have an army. But anyway, the word on the street is J-Mo put that hit out on Terry. So he basically, lets him know we need to go ahead and put the word out, stay strapped, because you already know once this Meech character finds out, he's probably going to be upset, and he's definitely going to want all the smoke. So then we see the Hood network just going, crazy. Like Meech says, it's like one wild game of telephone. People don't even care if what they spreading is true. They just going to move that word through and through. So we see Kato and B Mickey, which again is a part of the 50 boys. They get to the new trap house, and B lets her know that, she's a little different from the girls in the D. And it ain't just because of her looks that sets her apart. So Kato notices that, some beer cans, and it looks like somebody's been in there, and suddenly like this, well, I guess he ain't really homeless, but because maybe this is his home. But he comes out of nowhere and attacks her. So they get the rumbling and fighting. And during the scuffle, about 6 to 7K worth of coke got all over the floor. And, the bum, he got a little bit of it in his mouth. And he's like, well, I just need y'all to know that I do declare that there's some good shit right here. Next, we see that crazy boy Lamar. He actually shows up to the schoolyard and approaches Zoe, Monique's daughter. And she's totally uncomfortable. Like, she looks like she's seen a ghost. She's asking him why he's here. And he's really pressing her. Like, he's like, come here. And, like real creep mode. And so an adult finally, comes to her aid and is like, okay, dude, you got to get out of here. And, of course, he has his little outburst, but eventually he leaves. But, man, he really got some big balls to show up to that little girl's school. So back over at the new trap house, Meech shows up, and he's completely pissed off because he's like, Kato, we might need to get rid of your ass, because it just seemed like anytime you're around or involved in something, things just get messed up. So he's like, pissed because he's got product all over the floor. It's roach legs in him. So they like, we can't be serving it like that. So B and Meech go outside, and they got to talking, and Meech let him know about the incident with Kwame, and he's like, I don't think that really was a good look for you to be doing that in public, because damn, what if you didn't believe Kwame? Was you just gonna off him right then and there in broad daylight? So Meech, he's like, I've been knowing you for 10 years. I think it's a little bit something more going on that you ain't telling me about. And he basically reveals to him, I heard what the streets been saying. And they said that J-Mo ordered this. And you need to try to figure out a better way to communicate with him if we gonna try to get this resolved. So in the next scene, we see Meech visiting Terry in the hospital. And, he let him know that the streets are saying it was J-Mo that did it. But Terry really just doesn't believe it. Like, he thinks it's actually that crazy dude Lamar that keep popping up. Because it makes sense. We took all of his corners, and you got his baby mama. So it just seems too much like right that it's Lamar that's probably behind all of this. But Terry says ultimately what he wants Meech to do is just leave it alone. Don't even pursue that. Just continue to focus on the business. But Meech lets him know, my brother is my business, and I'm definitely not about to leave anybody alone that's messing with my brother. Over at Slick's house, while Lamar is fixing on a car, we see Monique show up, and she is livid. She confronts him about going to Zoe's school and said, she literally thought you were sick and had been praying for you every night. She had no idea that you was out of jail, and then you just gonna pop up on her at school? So Lamar, well, it's crazy, but he's like, I'm her daddy, and I don't need no announcement. I can go and see her, and she has a right to have her family. So Monique's like, dude, we're not together anymore, and you are not her daddy. I have told you this. So what is this? What do you think you're gonna do? And so he's like, I'm gonna make sure my family's made. And she's like, we're not gonna be together. So Lamar just won't let it go. He's actually even walking up on her and getting aggressive, saying he's doing what's best. And Slick has to actually come and separate them because he's literally like screaming in her face. But Monique, she leaves, and Slick's like, y'all need to hold all that down because I got neighbors. Thank you. So Meechy back in the Benz because we know he love to ride around and get it. But he's, just kind of thinking to himself about this whole J-Mo situation and how to handle it, because going the typical D-boy route is just not going to work. If he shoots J-Mo, someone's going to kill him. Then Terry's going to kill them. Then his kids are going to go kill Terry. So it's just going to be a whole lot of bodies just piled up. So he pulls up on Famel, which is J-Mo's like one of his closest guys. And he attempts to persuade him to join him, to take the top guy out and get what belongs to him. But of course, he rejected it, and he even upped the burner on him to tell him, like, nah, you can go on ahead and go on somewhere with that, because that ain't this over here. But Meech, he's super diplomatic. He flashes that priceless smile, and he's like, okay, cool, and backs away. So then we go back to the hospital, and we see Terry walking down the hallway trying to leave the damn hospital. Now behind him, you hear his baby crying. His baby mama's yelling, please, no, don't go. You need to stay. But he continues to keep walking and suddenly just passes out. Boy just straight hits the floor. So obviously they all come and help. And then we end up back at the diner. And we see Lamar. He's literally in the bathroom with a young lady who's on all fours on the ground, and they are having a time. So they're enjoying themselves so much, in fact, that the patrons can actually hear them. So once he finishes, he goes and he sits with Slick, or PM, I guess is his real name. I think I might have been messing that up, yeah. But PM, he's sitting at the table and he's waiting, he's eating or whatever. And, they laugh about the dude and the girl and what they was doing in the bathroom. But then they kind of get serious and talk about how Meechy attempted to try to get Famel. But he's like, he's way too loyal to J-Mo, so I wonder what that was all about. So then PM, he goes on and he tells him that basically in terms of his baby mama, Monique, he needs to soften up a little bit. And he needs to maybe try to convince her and show her, that all that he is doing is for them. And he needs to smooth talk her. So Lamar, he asked the lady sitting behind him for a pen, and he get to work on them napkins. So then we see our 50 Street boys. They back on the block. And they got more questions. They just not feeling good about the way this is all playing out. So they, ask B, why Meech hasn't, taken J-Mo out yet? If he ain't gonna ride for his brother, then what makes you think he gonna ride for me? I also heard that he tried to make a deal with Famel. And what's up with that? That's not really a good look. So, B, he tries his best to try to defend them. And, he reminds them that they are getting paid. So, they need to go ahead and get back to the money and quit worrying about the, semantics of it all. Then Kato kind of chimes in and says, also, what if he really didn't do it and we start a war over the wrong body? So the 50th Street boys, they like, well, them 12th Street boys is strapped because they ready, thinking that we're probably going to clap back once Meech hears about this. So we need to get ourselves positioned right. And Kato and B just reminds them, you don't want a hot block. We don't want to do this. Let's just lay low, keep it pushing, and we going to find some resolve. So back at the hospital, the family's all there. Mom, dad, the little sister, baby mama, and even Meech. And Wendy lets them know that Terry has an infection and it is going to his brain, to which everyone, looks absolutely devastated. So, the dad, he just cannot resist going at Meech. And he tells them, if you cared, you would have been here and not all out in these streets. So Meech tries again to tell him, Pops, he was robbed. This really was not my fault. So his dad retorts with, is that why your little drug dealing goons have been following us? You think we didn't notice? So then at that moment, Meech gets a call and he goes out in the hallway, and it's pretty darn urgent. And unfortunately, his mother overhears him saying that he's going to be on his way. So his mom and dad tried to plead with him to stay, but, Meech was like, nah, I'm going. But when he gets in the parking lot, B's there, and B confronts him, and he's like, that stuff that you did with Famil really didn't sit well with a lot of people, and it really makes them look like they some hoes at this point. And at the end of the day, you just need to go ahead and pop J-Mo. So Meechie says, but damn, what if he didn't actually do it? And I like the way he's thinking, because it really wouldn't make sense for J-Mo to kill him at this point if we just being logical about it. But B, he continues and he tries to shame him by saying, if it was my brother, I would have been and did something. And Meech looks at him and told him, well, I really don't give a fuck what you would have did. So back in the hospital, the father confronts the doctor when he says that, he can't really see how well his eye is going to heal. And his dad is like, well, his vision was perfect before he went into the second surgery. So I'm trying to figure out, did somebody mess something up? And so the doctor, he looking like, oh, shoot, he done got me. But he just goes on to say, well, I can't say that right now. So the dad's like, you know what, man, if my son's vision ain't 20/20, when this is all over with, you can trust and believe there will be a nice lawsuit waiting on you. So mom and dad, they end up at the nursery, and basically the dad wandered over there and mom found them. And they just looking at the babies and talking about how, they start off so innocent and you try to do everything you can for them, but it's just no way to just keep them away from the world. You can't protect their innocence forever. And the dad, he goes in and say, it was our job to protect them, and we ain't been doing that. When Meech dropped out to sell drugs, I said we need to put him out. When we found the gun, I said he had to go. And now Terry laid up in here shot, may go blind because of some BS his brother done put him in. But you refuse to make the hard choice. We need to go ahead and let Meech go. So mama goes on to say, she just really can't live with what could happen to Meech if she was to just give up on him and release him out into the world. She can't live with herself if something was to happen. So dad asked her, well, what if something happens to Nicole? What if something happens to us? Could you live with yourself with that? So over on Monique's porch, Lamar shows up and he's got all these love letters. And, she actually seems a little impressed, but she wants to know, why now? And he says, I just want Zoe to know that I was really trying to get better. And, I was out of line and I'm sorry, but I really want to prove to her. So Monique mentions that it was really hard when she went away. And, they struggled. But at this point, what is it that you want now? And he says that he just wants Zoe to know that he is her father and that he is there for her whenever the time is right. So Mo says, okay, I'll go ahead and I'll ask Zoe. And he is like, this is all that I asked. Begging. This is it. This is the only thing I need. And to that, Monique says, okay. So now we see Meech in the car with his little sister, Nicole. And I don't know if she must have ran off or something, because he's livid that she was over on E-Course. And she's flipping out and trying to jump out the car while they moving on the highway. And she's like, I hate you. So he ends up pulling over and he forces her to get out the car, and they start walking and talking. And she just says that she basically feels invisible in this family. Everything is about you being this drug dealer and the effects of it. I'm tired of lying to mom and daddy about it, and I'm just over it. I can't even go on my damn field trip. So Meech, he let her know, you're not invisible. You my baby sister. I love you. I always got your back, and I'm here for you no matter what. It's just I've been kind of focusing on some things. But trust me, I'm here for you. And he hands her a wad of cash and said, hey, don't tell mom and dad. So we get back to the hospital, and Wendy and Terry, they all laid up, and, booed up. And he starts asking about Meechie. So Wendy flips out, and she's just like, damn, you almost got executed, and all you can think about is your brother. I'm scared. I'm always looking over my shoulder. Shoot, what if Junior gets shot all up in the middle of this? So Terry, he tries to console her and let her know that we gonna be all right, but he keeps it all the way real with her and let her know, I'm not leaving this life. I love this shit, and it probably won't ever stop, and I won't quit. But I'm going to still go to school, and I'm going to provide a life for Junior and give him opportunities that neither one of us ever had. But I ain't leaving this life. But just know, we going to be all right. So Wendy, she just says, well, I just pray to God you're right. I just pray to God. All right. So now we see Meechie and B. They talking again. They pull up, and they get to talking about how they lost the rec center, and basically the little goons that they hired got paid off by JMO, so they wasn't able to basically lock down that territory and keep it active. But then we see Detective Bryant. He pulls up, and JMO, he's in the backseat of the car, and his mouth is all duct taped. So he gets out, he's on his knees, and he rips the tape off. And JMO initially was like thinking this was all about the rec center, but then he soon realizes that this is about Terry, and Meech starts beating the sleeves off the boy, right? So in between the hits, we hear J-Mo pleading, Meech, I didn't do this. I didn't shoot Terry. But I need you to know that you done now fucked up worse than when Terry pulled that gun out on me. And Meech gets to beating him even more and even pulls a gun out. So he got the gun on him, and J-Mo is now at the point where he's literally crying, coughing up blood. I mean, he's at wit's end, and he's pleading with him at this point. It ain't no more tough guy shit. He's like, I did not shoot your brother, and suddenly B shoots J-Mo. Oh my God. So Meech looks at him and's like, you just fucked everything up for me, right? And so them two, they kind of get the tussling, and then B reaches for his piece like he about to put it on Meech. So Meech, he looking at him like, do it, nigga. Do it. Do it. Do it. Like, come on, pull that trigger. I want to see you do it. And he don't do it. So Meech, he's like, okay, go ahead. He orders him to clean up the body, and he gets out of there. So after those traumatic events, Meech makes his way back to the hospital, and he finds his mother in the chapel praying. She tells him that she prayed that the Lord would soften his heart and that he'd leave the streets alone. She also explains how he really don't know how much she has tried to go to bat for him, but it's just not enough. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's only going to end up dead or in jail. So it has to stop. And she lets him know, if it can't stop, you will have to get out of our house. A mother's love goes only so far. So Meech looks at her and he says, sorry, Mom. I guess I'll be out of the house then. So she just looks absolutely just exhausted at this point because she's done everything that she could. And she just looks at him and says, I'm sorry that that's your choice. And he says, just keep praying for me, Mama. So then we flash over to B's house, his mama house, and Kato, she down in the basement getting down with her bad self. She's smoking a little L, getting high, and she is in the zone. So as B catches her, he's like, I ain't know you had the moves like that. He already thinks she's pretty and like her swag or whatever. So now he's like, oh, and you can throw that thing like that. So she asked him if everything was taken care of with J-Mo, and he tells her we ain't got to worry about that no more. So she, kind of says that she thinks that with Meech's logic, sometimes it might not always seem like it makes sense, but it usually ends up working out. So she's riding it out and just gonna keep laying low with him. And B goes on to say, well, that's my kind of girl, So then Kato makes this little scene about how she know he been looking at her like a dog wanting steak since she seen him. And, this ain't never finna happen. I'm the only female in the crew. So if, I'm trying to be respected, I can't be opening them type of Pandora's boxes, right? But then she just takes one look at him and she is like, you got some vodka in that fridge? And he was like, yep, well, go on and get us some drinks. So I guess she gonna stay tonight. So we see Meech. He goes back up to the hospital. He's talking to Terry. They joking, having fun. And he's calling them Cyclops. But then Terry gets a little serious. And he says, honestly, I'm scared. And Meech is like, I am too. But he's like, he don't want to bury his brother over a life that he brought him into. So Terry, he says he notices a little bit of a change. And, ask him what happened last night when he left. And, Meech was like, I just got behind on work, but it is what it is, because at the end of the day, ain't nobody going to be getting away with messing with my brother. I'm going to always have your back. So we then switch to like some type of a alleyway where Famel is like in a car trunk doing something, and Lamar crazy but pulls up. Oh my gosh. So as he pulls up, he starts hitting them, beating them, like he is just a full-on, full-out attack. And we see little clips of people praying. We see mom praying. We see Zoe praying. We see dad praying. But this vicious attack is just going on. So eventually he ends up beating the mess out of him, so much so that he was able to throw him into a dumpster and walk off. We then hear Meech say that in this life, you gonna hear all them warning bells going off. But it's so hard to really hear the sound when you having fun and you got the money and you got the cars. You think you changing the game, but it's really the game that's changing you. And it don't matter how many people you got out there praying for you, and no matter how hard you try, it is going to catch up with you. So that was my review on Season 1, Episode 2, BMF. I am really enjoying this show. I love it. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining me at the table.